Hello and welcome to our talk tonight, from pain and suffering to freedom. You're all very welcome. It's so good to see so many people online, and it's great that we can connect here on a wet, cold evening in Vancouver. But I know some of you are tuning in from Australia, and I'm sure it's a lot warmer there. But in terms of our talk, the first part I wanted to jump into was why physical pain drains us. And then we'll go into why emotional pain blocks the chakras. And then the third part of our talk is why nothing outside needs to change for you to feel free. And so I'm going to break it into three sections, more or less. And I'd like to start with a quote that I've come across, and it's, if you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is negative in yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. That's from Lao Tao. And I think it's really beautiful, you know, if we want to awaken humanity, awaken ourselves, if we want to end suffering, end our own negativity. And over my practice in bioenergy healing, working as a practitioner and a trainer for over 30 years, working with tens of thousands of people, you get to see a lot of patterns, and you get to see a lot of a lot of ways that we are. And I think that human beings are incredible, amazing, beautiful, wonderful, but we're also a little bit crazy, challenged. We're all of it, you know. That's one of the things I find, like, we're all of it. We're, you know, and so trying to fit it all into a short talk tonight is, you know, it's just the tip of the iceberg. But with that said, we'll do our best to take such a huge subject, which is the human being, and pain and suffering and freedom. There's multiple subjects in just that alone. But in terms of freedom, like, another way too is just like, you know, freedom itself is a huge subject, you know, whether we mean like being physically free from pain, or emotional freedom, that we're not stuck in ourselves anymore, or whether we mean like the emotional freedom of coming out of suffering, or spiritual freedom more connected to like enlightenment or ascension. Like I said, it's such a huge subject. But in terms of, I feel like freedom that I found in sessions for people, I guess another word we could use is peace. And peace is such a beautiful, not just a word, but a vibration, a frequency. And peace is the most beautiful thing, because when we have peace in our heart and peace in our body, it's incredibly healing, and it's incredibly freeing, you know, when we feel like deep peace inside ourselves. I believe that we're incredibly free when we feel deep peace, you know. And when we're not in peace, I think we're kind of trapped. I think that the human being gets trapped in, I mean, in the mind is one place. Our own negative thinking can sometimes be really a huge cause of our suffering. And then, of course, physical pain is a cause of suffering. Like, when you have physical pain, I think one of the things with physical pain is that pain robs your attention. So just like if you had a toothache, all your attention is going to the toothache. Or if you have a lower back pain and it's really bad, all your attention is going to the lower back pain. So pain has a way of almost like stealing our energy and stealing our peace, right? And so when we're in pain, we're really not very free. because it's stealing so much of our energy and our frequency and our vibration. And so from the physical pain to emotional pain, you know, sometimes, like, after working with a lot of people over many years, and also, you know, experiences I've had myself, you know, I've treated a lot of people with pain, and we have great success with treating pain. But I sometimes think what's worse than physical pain is actually emotional pain. Would anybody agree with me? Right? Like, I don't know, you can have a pain in your foot, and it's like, yeah, it's bad, but you can kind of deal with it. And you've got a pain in your back, and it's difficult, but you can kind of deal with it. But when we have emotional pain, I mean, that's another whole level of suffering. And, you know, there can be different levels of emotion around that, whether it's like grief from the loss of a loved one. I think that's one of the worst pains that we can experience, like the loss of someone that we love, like deep grief, and, you know, to regrets, to sadness, to heartache, right? So, like, even the breaking up of a relationship, divorce, you know, we've all been there. I'll put my hand up for that one, but we've all been there. And it's, you know, grief and regret, loss, heartache is like, even for kids, like for a 17-year-old who's had their first love, and they, you know, it breaks up, and the heartache that kid feels. And, you know, as a parent, if your child, you know, has a heartache, you kind of know, you know, this is not going to be their only love. It might be their first love, it might be the most significant love in their life, but it's not in their whole lifetime. This is not going to be their only love, you know. But yet, for that child, they believe their life is over, their world has ended, you know. And I sometimes think, as we get older, that child part of us is kind of still there, you know. So years later, relationships later, you go through a separation or divorce again, and you're right back into those feelings. You're right back into the depths of despair, to the depths of your own suffering. And it's pretty normal, right? Like, everybody goes through it. I don't think, I mean, I've worked with tens of thousands of people, and I don't think that anyone escapes suffering. I don't think that anyone escapes it. I think that people are really good at hiding it, right? You know, people are really good at, you know, getting over it, putting on a brave face, moving on with their life, getting on with stuff. You know, that's why I think the human being is amazing, because we get up and we go again. You know, like, we get up and we go again, and life happens, shit happens, and we get up and we go again. The human being is absolutely frigging incredible, amazing, you know. I know there's sources out there in the world that would tell you the human being is a virus. I don't really buy into that. I think the human being is a beautiful, we're beautiful beings, and we deserve more love, not less love. And I think that starts with us, right? Like, that starts with us reclaiming our power, reclaiming our love for ourselves, and one's love for oneself. I mean, it's not selfish, you know. It's really, you can only really allow someone else to love you to the depths in which you love yourself. And I think we go through it all, don't we? We go through it all at different times in our life. We get different experiences to experience pain, to experience suffering. A lot of people believe that suffering helps us to grow, that suffering helps us to become, I guess, more resilient, more like it grows us in different ways. I've always believed, you know, is it possible for us to grow in a more loving and expansive way and a lighter way than fucking pain and suffering, right? Like, do we have to go through despair and pain and suffering in order to grow? And, you know, I've often thrown those prayers out to the heavens, like, dear God, help me grow through some, like, through the fun stuff, through the happy stuff, through the light stuff. Forget the pain and suffering. If someone else wants to experience that, let them. But, you know, let's make life a little easier down here, you know? And I think, like, from the moment we're born, you know, we're born into separation, right? Like, we're literally born into suffering to some degree, because you're this amazing, incredible, powerful spirit. Imagine, right? Before we're born, we're part of the infinite universe, the infinite intelligence. We've memory of who we are, right? Like, we're full fractal light beings. We're like coming from that amazing place. And then we're born and we're separated from all of that. We forget who we are and we feel really, really friggin' alone. And, you know, and then we go through our first experiences being, you know, pushed out of the cozy womb, you know, and being pushed out the birth canal, you know, screaming and kicking with lights on, bright lights on, and we get slapped. And, you know, what an entry point into the world. You know, it's like we come in kicking and screaming, you know, and that's welcome to Earth, you know. And then you go to school and you're told, you know, sit down, stand up, when you can use the washroom. You need permission to do everything. You need permission to go to the washroom, you know. So then our schooling is all like, sit down, then you go to work, and your work is like 9 to 5, or, you know, whatever that traditional sense, right? I think a lot of us have moved away from that 9 to 5, but there's still a lot of people that are doing that. And it's like, we need permission to leave the work. We need permission to have a day off, where it's always like needing permission. And so the unravelment for me of, like, you know, I really feel this like deep pull to spiritual freedom. I feel this deep pull to inner peace, you know, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, right? Like, I'm sure all of you feel the same. And, you know, and something that pulls my heart is truth, right? Unraveling truth. Like, what is the truth of it all? And, you know, I don't think that pain and suffering is necessarily the, you know, all that life is about. It's a part of it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's such a small part of who and what we are. And I guess, like, through the work that I've done, I've had the opportunity to see that I feel like that our soul, like that deeper spiritual part of ourselves, you know, we can all give it different names, but I'm just going to call it our soul. And I'm going to say our soul is that deeper, more like real, tangible, spiritual aspect of ourselves. And our soul really wants, I genuinely believe this, our soul wants us to be free. I really feel that. I feel everything in my life has been pulling me towards that, right? Everything in my life has been pulling me towards that spiritual freedom. And I think what our soul does, get this, is our soul makes us experience pain and suffering. Our soul, like, puts us into those uncomfortable places where we get to experience all the crap in our lives. And you think, well, why would your soul do that? Like, you would think that your soul, the higher aspect of you, loves you without any resistance, that our soul, like, deeply, deeply loves us. And you would think, well, why would our soul like keep putting us into pain and suffering? And I think that the reason for it is that our soul's one purpose is like, your soul doesn't really care too much about whether you like things, whether you dislike things, who you marry, what food you eat. I don't think your soul worries about any of that stuff. Your soul has one purpose: to free you and to liberate you and to bring you into your spiritual awakening. I genuinely believe that's the purpose of your soul. Your soul is to free you and liberate you, and it will do whatever it has to do to put you into freedom. And one of the ways that it brings us to freedom in a weird way is it puts you into your pain. It's literally putting you into the areas where you're uncomfortable, the areas where your body and your mind and your heart still needs healing. So the areas of your life where you're suppressing your wounds, a lot of people call it the shadow self. So there's areas of us where we have unhealed wounds. And you could say, well, as a child, you're born and you're innocent, and what wounds would you have to heal? Well, I think that sometimes we come to this world not just to heal our own wounds, but to heal the wounds of our ancestors, to heal the wounds of our family. And although it's not our responsibility to heal others, as such, it's not our responsibility to go back through time and clear out all the family's lineage. But one of the ways that we do that is to heal ourselves. And that as the life challenges come up for us, they push us to transform. And so that's what I've always understood as the healing process, is that we're brought into places where we don't want to be in order to transform the parts of ourselves that are uncomfortable, the part of ourselves that are wounded, that carry pain and suffering. And we're brought back into those places not to create more suffering, but to free us from the very thing that is causing us suffering. Does that make sense to anybody? I see a few heads nodding. Thank you. So we come back to our first question of the night. Why physical pain drains you? So why does physical pain drain you? Well, personally, I love treating people with pain, like especially back pain. I love treating people with back pain because it's the most successful thing I treat. I probably have like a 95% success rate with back pain. I love treating people. When people come in with back pain, I'm literally rubbing my hands together. I'm like, yes, I love it. I absolutely love it more than anything else, because there's this feeling that I know that they're going to feel so much better when that pain is gone. And when people have illness or sickness and you're able to help them get rid of it, it's the best feeling in the world, because you're helping take people's pain away. And there's something really beautiful about that. And I didn't always appreciate that until, I hurt my back one time. And then I realized, oh my God, is this what people experience? I never had back pain growing up. I never had any kind of back pain or headaches or anything. I never had anything like that. I had asthma and eczema, but that's not really pain. It's suffering in a different way, but it's like, it's not pain. And so I never experienced like physical pain as such, to any kind of long degree, or like through a back pain. And then I injured my back and I realized, oh my God, how do people keep going on with if they feel like what I'm feeling now, if they're feeling that like all the time. And then I realized like how important and valuable my work was, because so many people would say to me, Michael, thank you so much, my pain is gone. And I'd be very like, oh yeah, it's normal, it's fine. And I would just dismiss it because it's like, oh yeah, well, that's what we do, because people kind of, they often come as a last resort to energy healing. It's not their first choice, right? So they come as a last resort, and then when their pain goes, they're like, I can't believe you got rid of my pain without touching me, and it's like, oh yeah, that's normal. But then when you realize like how significant that is for a person to get pain free when they've been in pain for like even a year will disrupt your life in a huge way. But I mean, some of the people I treat have been in pain for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I've treated, I think the most was I treated a man with arthritis, severe arthritic pain for 45 years, and the reason I remember that one so much was because that was a really miraculous result. He went pain-free in one session, in one treatment. And that's, I don't know another word other to say than miraculous, right? Like that's not the normal, normally it takes a month or two to get people out of pain, but he was completely like 100% pain-free in a single session. That to me shows what the body is capable of. The body is so, and how did he get better so quick? I've shared this in other talks, but I think one of the ways that we heal quickly is when we receive. He was just so open to receiving, and you say, well, how come he didn't receive healing in the last 45 years? Who knows? It's like he just hadn't found the treatment that was right for him. Sometimes people do treatments, they might not work, and then you do a treatment with a different person and it works, right? So who knows? We're complicated beings. But in terms of like why physical pain drains you is well, of course you lose your attention to it. So it's incredibly draining because you're losing your attention to pain. And I mean, I'm talking about people with pain with between a year and 10 years and 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. But I mean, even if you have a toothache for a week, it steals your week, right? Like if you have a headache, even if you have a headache for an hour, your time is disrupted, right? Like it steals something from you. So, one thing I found with pain is that people don't want to feel pain. Right? Like, is that a given? Can we admit that? Unless you like pain, and then that's another talk, which we won't be doing tonight, but that's another whole talk, if you like pain. But in terms of pain, we don't want to feel pain, right? Like we're not crazy. We don't want to feel pain. So generally what we do with pain is are you ready for it? We suppress pain down. We suppress pain down in our body. And so when we have, and I haven't even gotten into emotional pain, we're only on physical pain at this part, but it works in a kind of similar way. We lose energy to pain, and then we lose more energy to keep the pain suppressed in our body. So a person could have, when a person has pain, they tend to have low vibrational energy and low physical energy. So they're often like, oh, I'm just tired all the time. Well, one of the reasons you're tired all the time is because you have pain in your body. And then if you say, Michael, I have no energy, but I also have no pain. In my experience, that's just not true. In my experience, if you have no energy, it's usually that you have pain, but you've completely suppressed it in your body. Now, that could be physical or emotional, but so you lose energy to pain, and then you lose more energy to suppress it down in your body. And think about it. You have a pain, and of course, you don't want to feel it. So you go to the pharmacy, you pick up some painkillers, ibuprofen or something, and you take it, and basically it's a painkiller. It's killing the pain, or you could say it's killing the sensation of pain. But that pain is still there, whatever that pain is, physical or emotional, that's still there inside you. That's what I found, is that you're just not feeling it anymore, but it's still there. And one of the things about healing is whenever you do healing with people, they always say, one of the things that people always say is, you know, as they're going through their healing, they often say like, oh, my pain is getting worse. Like, so people say, my pain is getting worse. And what I found is that your pain is actually not getting worse. What's actually happening is you're actually feeling the pain that's inside your body. Boom. You're just feeling it. Maybe you haven't felt it for 10 years. Maybe you've suppressed the pain in your body for 10 years. And on your first healing session, you feel all this pain in your body. It's not that your body's getting worse. It's that you're just feeling. You're feeling that you haven't been feeling what's going on inside. And so the reason this is so important is because if we're going to get to freedom, then we have to get through feeling. We literally have to go in order to get out. We have to go into ourselves in order to break free of ourselves. But I'm going to weave it all together. At least I hope so. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so pain as a good thing, right? So pain is a good thing. Well, what does that mean? Well, you twist your ankle and then you get a sharp pain in your ankle. Your pain swells up. It gets inflamed. Inflammation, right? Like inflammation is probably the #1 cause behind most disease and illness, is inflammation in the body. But at the same time, sometimes inflammation is like, there's a communication in it, right? It's letting us know something. It's warning us about something. So as an example, you twist your ankle and it gets inflamed and you have a really sharp pain, like on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is no pain and 10 is the worst pain. So you twist your ankle and your pain goes up to a 10. Out of nowhere, suddenly now you've got a pain in your body. Well, what's the first thing it does? It grabs all your attention, you know. But what's the message of the pain? Well, the pain, in this case, the pain is not a bad thing, right? There's no one like punishing you and making you suffer, right? Like the pain, you know, is actually your body's way of saying, don't walk on your foot, right? Like rest your foot. You're after doing an injury and now you need to give it some time to heal. And ideally, you know, I don't know if your parents said this to you, but when I was young, if you hurt your ankle, it was always like lie down and get your ankle up high. And that was just always the kind of concept. And it was just like, but the pain was telling you not to walk on your ankle, not to walk on your foot, right? And then that's like, there's a concept in healing that I like to share with people, is that healing is your body's natural state. Like, even if you never go to a healer, if you've never been to a bioenergy healer, or you've never had acupuncture or any kind of work like this, your body is designed to heal itself. Isn't that true? Like, your body is designed to heal itself. So even if you do nothing and you just rest, say you just rest, it's only a matter of time before that swelling in the ankle comes down, the pain disappears, and your ankle returns to normal. And that happens by itself. Does that make sense? Can we all agree on that? That's how frigging amazing your body is. Your body heals itself. Now, you cut yourself, right? You get a pain, you cut yourself. And if you do nothing, like your body will heal that cut. Your body has like little workers inside that go down to the cut and they start healing and repairing the cut. Little enzymes that go down and they start like fixing and repairing and healing I like to think of them as little engineers, right? They're little engineers, and they're down there, and they have different jobs, and they're like repairing the scar and healing it and fixing it, and it's doing that by itself. Now, also, say you injure your back. In most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, your back will fix itself. Isn't that true? Like, you injure your back, and over time, your back fixes itself. Your back will heal itself, And the body is designed to do that. You have food poisoning, and your body will eliminate that food poisoning. And anyone who's had food poisoning, you know what that elimination process looks like. It's your body is like purging in every direction, right? Like, it's looking, but it's doing that because it's purging, it's flushing itself out. It has a goal, and the goal is to return to homeostasis, to return to balance, which is beautiful, isn't it? Like, the goal of your body is to return to balance. Okay, so then we have that your body is naturally healing itself. And at the same time that your body naturally heals itself, we have, people who have pain for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 45 years. And we have to ask the question, why are they not healing? Why are they not healing? Why is someone sick for 10 years and not healing? And that's another whole, like, a huge kind of conversation. And that's why I'm doing these webinars every week, because I'm hoping that over these weeks that some of these ideas and concepts will come into your mind and come into your heart, and that you get an understanding of how beautiful and magical the body is, and how the body can heal. And you get an understanding of maybe why you've been sick, or why things in the past haven't healed, or indeed why things have healed, that you get an understanding of it as we break down some of these concepts, and we share the capability of your beautiful, magical, wonderful body. And so in terms of the physical, what I found is like that when we have, say, low back pain, there's not just a physical pain, but there's always, and I'm going to use this word always, because in my experience, after working on tens of thousands of people, there's always an emotional component to your physical pain. There's always is. And I know people say, yeah, but what if you have an injury? Yeah, what were you thinking about before you had that injury? Where was your vibration? What were you feeling? Like, you have a row with someone, so you're having a row with someone, you're maybe fighting, a situation going on, you walk away, and literally in 30 seconds later, you walk into a table and you bang your knee. And your knee is now in agony. You have agony pain in your knee. And you say, Michael, this is physical pain. I banged my knee off the table. There's nothing emotional about this. The doctor is not going to say, hey, what were you thinking about before? What was going on in your life just before you banged your knee? The medical doctor's not going to ask you that. They're going to just like check the knee, maybe give you some painkillers or anti-inflammatories, right? But in terms of like healing is about the holistic body, mind, and spirit. Looking at the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, and the physical, looking at all of it. In fact, I don't think that the spiritual is separate. I think it's physical, emotional, and mental, and the three of those are your spiritual. So it's like we are everything is spiritual, and then the physical, emotional, mental is kind of three aspects of us. So then in terms of say the knee pain, well, one of the things that as a bioenergy healer is when you're learning about the chakra system, so the 7 major chakras of the body, they relate to different areas of your life. And one of the chakras, the solar plexus chakra, which is the power center, the fire center. Funny enough, it's also where we store anger. It's where we store our blame and our complaining. It's where our frustrations are held. We hold that kind of frustration and anger in our solar plexus chakra, which is in around the digestive system. So often when people have, problems with their digestion, they'll often have like something emotional going on that they can't digest. So it's like you can't digest it emotional, and now physically your digestive system is giving you problems. But the reason I bring up the solar plexus is the solar plexus is the power center. And it also relates to your elbows and also your knees. So your knees and your elbows are related to the solar plexus chakra. And when you injure your knees or your elbows, there's always an emotional component back to the solar plexus chakra. And the reason that people can be sick for 10 years is because they have not released, healed, and integrated the emotional component. They've only looked at the body as physical, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And I think that the physical body is the cause and the effect. The injury is the cause, and the banging the table is the cause of your pain, right? You bang the table, right? That's the cause of your pain. Not so much so. It's like that row that you were having, that fight that you were having, if you had a loss of power during that fight, you had a fight with your partner, with your loved one, and you walk away and you're frustrated. And in that frustration, your energy withdraws, your energy changes, the vibrational frequency of your energy pulls back in. Now, why is that significant? Because when our energy closes in, we're much more prone to injury. And when our energy is open and flowing, I'm not saying it's impossible to injure yourself. I mean, obviously, if you jump out of a plane, you're done for. But with that said, when your energy is like open and flowing, you can injure yourself and it not hurt, and it just like it heals incredibly fast, But when there is an emotional component, which means like that I'm angry at this person, I don't like how they treated me, then that knee pain can stay there for weeks until the emotional issue is resolved. And you might not even make a link between them. But the reason why, we work with other people other than ourselves is because sometimes people have an insight or a training or an understanding of what's going on for you that you don't have for yourself. And so for me, my work and my dedication to healing is being to look to understand healing and the body and the energy system and how it works. And not just to understand how we heal, but also to understand why we don't heal. Because before you can heal people, you have to understand why people don't heal. And so in my experience, one of the ways that I measure healing is that I measure it by if I treat people and their ailments stay gone, that's a frigging great measurement. But if someone gets treated and their pain comes back, well, that measurement is telling you something. As an engineer, what I would say is that the deduction from that is that you're treating the pain, but you're not getting to the cause. You're treating the effect, but you're not getting to the cause. And so if I'm treating someone and their pain doesn't come back again, then I know that I must have gotten to the cause. Does that make sense? Right? I must have gotten to the cause. And that's why I say, like, we're magical, amazing beings, but we're also a little bit crazy, and we're all of the things, right? And so that's just like how incredible is it that we could feel like unsupported in our life and then suddenly have lower back pain? That we can feel burdened by life and then suddenly have shoulder pain. That we can feel that somebody we know is giving us a right pain in the neck. That person is a right pain in the neck. And then 10 minutes later, you have a pain in your neck. Right? And so here we pull apart the cause. What's the true cause behind illness and sickness? And when you see it, you can't unsee it, my friends. You can't unsee it. Even when someone says to you, Michael, I've been in a car crash. My back pain is real. Do you treat real back? People say that to me. I'm not kidding, usually men. But they say, like, people will say to me, Michael, do you treat real pain? And I'm like, what do you mean real pain? And they're like, well, not emotional pain, but real pain, like physical pain. And I'm like, they're not separate. They're the same thing, you know, but people separate them, right? And they're like, well, but my pain was in a car crash. So I was in a car crash and I injured my back. And I say, how long ago was the car crash? And they're like, 10 years. And I'm like, well, now it's no longer the car crash. Your body should have healed, right? Here's a thing I teach people in the body's regeneration, is that you don't have the same back that you had 10 years ago. You don't have the same spine that you had 10 years ago. In fact, radioactive isotope studies show you don't have the same spine that you had a year ago. You know, what the fuck? How is that possible when you have pain for years and years? Because it's not the physical. The physical is running to your body like a river. Like it's running to your body, regenerating, renewing itself. Your body, just like your breathing, you notice your breathing is changing all the time. But all the systems of your body are continuously in this flux, in this flow, in this circulation. Your body is circulating, right? New cells are circulating in, new old cells are circulating out, right? There's this continuous motion. And so your body is being replaced. You're being replaced moment to moment to moment. With every breath that you breathe, you're breathing trillions of atoms out of your body, you know, and exchanging them with everyone else in the universe. So I can't get into that subject now because it's a huge subject, but you're not your body. Let's just say that you're not, you are your body, but you're also not your body, right? So then what's the emotional side? Well, this person says, I was in a car crash 10 years ago. And I'm like, look, you're probably still angry at them. Because if you're still angry at the person who crashed into you, then that's the emotional reason why your back hasn't got better. And the person's like, oh, well, but I hit pillows and I did counseling and I'm not angry anymore. And I'm like, well, I mean, just listening to people, you can tell if people are angry or not, right? Like, I'm not a counselor, but if someone's convincing me that they're not angry, I usually kind of think, you're convincing me too much, right? And so I'm like, I think we got to work on some of the emotional energy. And they're like, yeah, but mine is physical. I'm like, it's really not. Your physical body has changed. You don't have that same body that you had 10 years ago. So we have to release the emotional. And the way we do that is to access the heart chakra. And the heart chakra opens up the emotional energy field. And then once we're in the emotional energy field, then we have to go into the solar plexus chakra, which is where the pain is being held. And we release that emotional pain. And then guess what happens? Every friggin' time, their physical pain dissipates. Their physical pain disappears. Every friggin' time. Because there's always an emotional component and you can't separate them. We're physical and we're emotional. And mental then is another whole aspect. But in terms of now, that kind of just gives you an understanding of why physical pain drains our energy. Physical pain drains our energy because we lose energy to pain, and we lose energy to keeping the pain suppressed. And then I asked the question, why are people sick for years and years when their body has this amazing ability to heal? And I think that women are amazing. I think that, you know, a woman can have a baby grow inside her. I mean, I don't know if any of you believe a man can have a baby grow inside of you, but I believe a woman can have a baby grow inside of you, and you can form like new liver and lungs and bones and blood and tissues and eyes and ears. You can have a child grow inside of you, but you can't get rid of your back pain. You can't get rid of arthritis. You can't get rid of cancer. You can't get rid of MS. That doesn't make sense, right? Makes no sense, right? I see Ella coming into realization there. It's like, holy shit, right? Right? You cut yourself, the cut heals. You bruise yourself, the bruise heals. You break a bone, the bone heals. The doctor puts it in a protective cast, you know, sets your leg, puts it in the cast. But who heals your leg? That's you. That comes from inside of you. And most things heal with time. But then we have this other whole level in which things don't heal. And why don't they heal? And I'm saying to you is that the reason they don't heal, from 30 years of doing bioenergy healing, from working on people, sessions and training, and really like wanting, like deep in my heart to understand healing, the answer that I found is that the reason people don't heal is because they're still holding on to an issue in their tissue. So when they have an issue, it keeps getting imprinted back into the tissues. So you've got new tissues coming into your body all the time, but something has to be programming them with the old way of being, with the old wounding, with what's happened in the past. And that emotional energy is part of, it's not the only part, but it's part of, with the mental, it's imprinting itself back into the body day after day, week after week, month out of month, year after year. And so it robs us of our freedom. It robs us because it keeps repeating itself over and over and over again, as so many people who have had long-term pain or chronic illness know only too well that it keeps repeating again and again and again. And even when they think they're getting better, they're back to where they were before. And so, you know, the gift of being able to like help people get out of this place and into a place where they actually heal. And by healing, I mean like they get better, full recovery. I don't mean they have an improvement. I don't mean they feel better and then they get their pain back again. I mean, in my mind, the process of healing is that you're better than you were before you were sick. So not only are you stronger and more resilient, but you have an emotional integration and understanding of like the pattern that came up, that there's a release on a deep level, that there's a release and a healing behind that emotional pattern. And in bioenergy, this is a crazy part. We can do that without even talking. A lot of the bioenergy treatments, there's no talking involved. And the reason for that is because we're accessing the biofield, the electromagnetic field of the body, and the 7 main chakras of the body. And we're directly working on the energy system, the chakras. And some of the chakras relate to the emotional side of the wounding. Some of the chakras relate to the physical. Some of the chakras relate to the mental, and it's a process to learn that and understand that. And that's when, you know, when you're working with practitioners, they've gone through that training to be able to help and understand. And that's why they can, you know, sometimes even someone who's only taken the level 1 bioenergy, just by using the basic techniques that they've learned, they're able to take someone's pain away. You know, and then with more practice and more learning and more understanding, they're able to prevent that pain from coming back again. And then with more practice and understanding, then you're able to prevent yourself from getting ill and sick. Now, I'm not like, that's a bold statement to make. You're able to prevent yourself from getting ill and sick. We're all human, and we burn the candle at both ends, and we're all of the things. Like I said, we're a little bit loco, we're a little bit crazy, and we'll push life until we find the boundaries, right? And so but in terms of the emotional side now of the healing, on the emotional side, there is, I think that emotional pain, now we'll just say that there's no physical pain, and we just have even emotional pain. Emotional pain, as I mentioned before, like words like, I could use a term like heartache, that I think that's the worst pain. You know, it's the worst pain to have to feel. Grief is the worst pain. Sadness, you know, nobody likes being friggin' sad, but then sadness can even become an addiction. There's people that get addicted to being ill or being sick, to being sad, to despair, to suffering. There's people who, when their life is really good, they'll find ways to make themselves suffer. And the reason for that is that there is a thermostat that's set inside your chakras, a thermostat that determines your level of well-being. And if you're always going to create an environment where you feel comfortable around yourself, you'll always bring everything back into your comfort zone, to what you're comfortable with. And you might say, yeah, but I'm comfortable with being healthy, and I'm comfortable being happy, and I'm comfortable being at peace and being free. Well, that might be what you want, but what deep down that you may not know inside yourself is that you may be comfortable sometimes like balancing out the happiness and the joy with pain and suffering. So when your life is going really good, you'll find ways to fuck it up. Right? Pardon my French, you know, but we do that. That's how amazing we are. We do crazy shit, and we do it to ourselves. There's a term that's called the cosmic giggle. The cosmic giggle. A term called the cosmic giggle. And it's when sometimes you're doing healing on people, and towards the end of their treatment, towards the end of their sessions, they start laughing. They just start laughing. And you're like, what's going on? And it's like awareness has come into their mind. And they realize, it's this realization that the suffering they've done to themselves, that they're doing it to themselves, mentally and emotionally, that we can be the cause of our own problems. Not in all the cases, but there's a tendency. It's like when you see it, you can't unsee it. And then when you see it, it's incredibly liberating. I mean, talk about spiritual freedom. When you see your stuff, you can't unsee it. It friggin' liberates you. It frees you just by, that's how powerful awareness is, you know. But, you know, healers have this way of like helping their clients and students to see what they're not able to see, right? Like that's like in ancient times, healers were called seers, right? The seers, because they see stuff, right? They see. There's a lot of stuff we see that other people don't see, right? And you can learn it. You can learn to see the stuff that other people don't see. But generally, people don't know what they don't know, right? People don't know what they don't know. But if you can bring a person to the place where they can see their own stuff, it's incredibly freeing and liberating, you know. And so in terms of like, why does emotional energy close down the chakras? So why emotional pain blocks the chakras? Because if you take like your chakras, the chakras they're kind of like flowers. They're open, you know, they're open looking outwards. Woohoo, hello, you know. But the word chakra is Sanskrit for spinning wheel. It means spinning wheel. So it's a spinning wheel that is like moving around in your body and taking energy, experience the environment. I kind of think of it like, you know, a flower and the sun. It's like they have this relationship. So our chakras have a relationship with the universe. Our chakras have a relationship with each other. When you meet someone that you really like, your chakras open up. It's like they wave, you know. If your chakras had little fingers, which they kind of do, but that's another talk. But it's like your chakras wave at the people they like. And then when you're with someone that you feel like you're in friction with, your chakras close down. The little fingers start to close on your chakras, and they start to close because you're protecting yourself. And so we have an emotional energy field, and that emotional energy field opens up when we feel good. Have you ever been around someone who like you feel really good when you're with them, and you just feel like you're open and expansive? And then you're around someone who you might use a term that they're a negative person, and what do? You close down, right? Like, you must protect myself. You have these defense mechanisms, right? And the defense mechanism is I must protect myself, and the chakras close down. And that's really sad when it comes to the heart, because when we experience loss and heartache, we close the heart down. And I've worked with people who've had their heart closed down for 10 years after the loss of a loved one. And I think it's really sad, because it's like they go into a cave, a dark, dark cave, and they start living in that cave. And despite, like, counseling is wonderful and amazing, and I think it can be so supportive. Everything from grief counseling to marriage counseling, it's, you know, it's necessary, and it's absolutely wonderful. But sometimes, even with years of counseling, it can't penetrate that emotional energy that is the chakra closing itself down on an emotional level. And so, like, emotion isn't just something vague. It's literally your chakras are emotional. Your chakras is your emotional auric field, and your chakras are open and closing in response to your experience of life, right? And the different chakras, because they're in different parts of your body, they relate to different areas of your life. And so when we experience heartache, the heart chakra closes down, you know, and left unattended, the heart chakra will stay closed. And sometimes when the chakra closes down, time doesn't always heal. You know the way they say time heals all wounds? Really, I don't think that's the case. It is the case some of the time when everything is working well, absolutely, right? But when there's other factors and we're complicated beings, then time is not always the healer. Sometimes we need to do something different than what we've been doing. Sometimes we need help and support. And I think our soul will bring people into our life, opportunities into our life. Our soul will bring a book into our life, a workshop, a person. You know, people have said to me, oh, Michael, you know, I'm so glad I met you. And, you know, I take it for granted, right? Like I've worked with a lot of people and you take it for granted. But sometimes like I stop and I really try to receive that. And I'm like, you know, what is this person really saying? And they're saying like they're so grateful to meet me. Maybe I've helped them with their health. And I think that happens for a lot of us. Different people come into our lives at different times, right? It may be me or maybe someone else, but different people come into your life in response to your desire for help and support, you know. So it's like, dear God, please release this heartache, take my pain and suffering away. Well, in my experience, God doesn't come down in his UFO, land in your front garden, takes out his healing buzzer and zaps you with it and your pain is gone, right? Like, but what great spirit, God, whatever name you want to give it, the universe, your soul, what it does do is, in response to your asking for help, it brings books and people, and it moves things into our lives, and it gives us opportunities to get a solution to our problem, opportunities to go to the places that we're not able to go to by ourselves. Does that make sense? Right? And that's what I feel really humbled by and grateful for, to be that opportunity for so many people, to help people. Like I've seen people come out of that cave in 4 sessions, like 4 treatments, 4 1-hour treatments, that they come out the other side of that cave. You know, there was a woman I treated in Scotland, and this was ended up in the newspaper because her husband rang the newspaper, but it was, I think, the Scotsman or something it was in. And it was like, she came to the clinic, and I was running a clinic in Scotland, and she had a treatment of bioenergy, and she went home, and her son had died when he was 19 years of age. And her son had died like it was almost like, I think it was like 19 years since her son had died. So her son was 19 when he died, and it was 19 years. So it was kind of like maybe some sort of mental anniversary or something for her. It was around that time. And she had gone into a big depression, and she was inside that cave for 19 years. And herself and her husband drove 4 hours down to the clinic in Edinburgh, and from like Inverness or somewhere, so kind of up north of Scotland. They drove down, and on the way back in the car, her husband contacted our clinic, and he wanted to let us know that she spoke more in the car on the way home than she had done in 19 years. I know, it's kind of like, you know, wasn't expecting to get emotional there. But how crazy is that? I didn't give her any counseling. I just opened her heart chakra. It opened up her heart. It opened up her heart. And the thing about the heart is that, you know, I say to people, right? Like we've all had heartache. I mean, I've had enough for a few people. I've had my share. But the one thing that I do is I refuse to close my heart down. I refuse. I feckin' refuse to close my heart down. No feckin' way. Not doing it. No. And it doesn't matter if someone else has done me wrong or something happened or the loss of a loved one. I refuse to close my heart down. And that's the standard of which I live my life by. I refuse to close my heart down. And I think that that's the greatest gift that you give yourself. The greatest gift that you give yourself is to keep your heart open. And when your heart is open, you're so vibrationally ready to receive. You're in the vortex of receptivity. And every time I've had heartache, I've also been blessed with the opportunity to have that heartache fully healed and then have the most amazing, beautiful people come into my life. New opportunities, new people, new experiences. And I think that happens when the heart stays open, that there's a freedom about that you choose to be free. That you remember I said, like, right from when we're young, we're kind of pushed into life, and we look for permission for everything, right? Like, you're looking for, permission from the counselor that your heart is going to heal. You're looking for permission from the healer that you're going to heal. You're looking for permission from your friends that you'll get over this heartache. You're looking for permission from your family and other people. You're looking for permission, like, that things are going to get better in your life. And what I do in healing is I reach in friggin' side of you. I reach down into your solar plexus chakra, and I go right inside there, inside your body, and I activate it and open it up, and I say, you give yourself permission. You give yourself permission. I open your fire center, your power center, and the very solar plexus that you bang your knee because you're angry and it's held in the solar plexus is the same frigging energy center that has the capacity and the ability to put you back in your power. And when you come back into your power and you empower yourself, then the next chakra that opens up is the heart chakra. And when the heart opens, the body can heal. The body, I believe that when the heart is open, the body can heal itself of anything. That there's no incurable conditions. There's only incurable people. People's hearts are closed. And we all deserve more love, not less. And the reason I say we have to love ourselves is because that begins with ourselves. We have to return the love that is missing. We have to return it. Because the reason, like, even in relationships, the reason we go through the wounding is because, are you ready for it? It's the gift that we give ourselves in order to heal the parts of ourselves that need more love, not less. So our soul, in its wisdom and intelligence and magnificence, our soul puts us into relationships and jobs and opportunity after opportunity for us to feel our pain and suffering and heartache, not in any way to punish us, but to bring us to freedom and liberation. Boom. We've gone a little bit over time, but don't worry, it's free, no charge. Thank you for tuning in so much to our talk tonight. I'm going to wrap it up now, bringing it all together, right? I think, like, in terms of why nothing outside needs to change for you to be free. That was my third part. Why nothing outside of you needs to change for you to be free. is because the suffering that we have, whether it's a need or guilt or shame or grief, it's from inside of us, right? It's from inside. I know we think it's from outside, but it's from inside. And so that's why we have to go in order to get out. We have to go into ourselves. We have to do the work on ourselves. And the measure, I feel like the measure of our spiritual growth, is if when life brings up challenges, because it will, right? It will. It's the one thing that's certain, is that everything is always changing. So you don't know what's going to happen next. In fact, it's a movie. We're all watching to see what happens, right? We never know what's going to happen next. Life is constantly changing, and we're constantly maneuvering ourselves through it. But the measure of our growth in our life, the measure of I feel our spiritual growth, is when we re-experience the things that we've experienced in the past that have caused us pain. When we re-experience those things, and we will, my friends, we repeat things over and over and over again, right? Healing is not that things don't repeat. Healing is that when situations in your life repeat, that you have the capacity and the wherewithal inside of yourself to be able to handle whatever comes up, and to be able to remain free in your heart, to be able to keep your heart open. And so even in the depths of your despair, in your wounding, in your pain, I do believe that there's a gift in it. And I do believe that your soul is gifting you in some way, that when we lose ourselves to the loss of relationship, when we lose ourselves to the loss of a loved one, when we lose ourselves to the loss of a family member who has died, the pain that we feel is inside, not outside. And the healing has to happen inside, not outside. And one of the things that as humans, we're always trying to do, we're always trying to fix what's happening on the outside, right? And if you look at the world right now, the reason I say, you know, the world is beautiful and wonderful and magical, but the world is also frigging crazy. It's all of the things. And the reason I say the world is crazy is because there's people that expect us to keep changing what we're doing so that we don't upset them. And I don't think that that's possible. I don't think that you can make everybody happy all the time. There's always going to be people upset. That's the nature of life, because the nature of people is that we carry wounds that are unhealed until they're healed. And so a wounded person will always find something to be wounded at, right? A wounded person will go through life looking for people to trigger their wounds so that they can bring their anger to the surface, so that they can bring their pain to the surface, so that they can bring their sadness to the surface, so that they can bring their suffering to the surface, not to keep suffering, but to free themselves, to say no more, and to heal it, and to free themselves and to liberate themselves, you know. And that's, I believe that the things that happen in our life, they come up to help free us and liberate us. And if we don't understand that, then we keep repeating the patterns and we keep suffering. And life happens. That's a given, but suffering is optional. And the moment we realize suffering is optional, it's like a weight comes off our shoulders and our face opens up and becomes lighter and our heart opens and becomes freer. The moment we realize suffering is optional. And, you know, if you're in pain and you're like, hey, you know, I probably should have some healing sessions with Micah, but I'm in pain for years, but it's like, you know, I'll just like go along. I'm just going to say, maybe you're enjoying the suffering. You know, that's something that you have to look at, right? Like if you're not doing the work on you, that's something that you have to look at, because we're destined to outgrow something or repeat something. We outgrow it or we repeat it. Does that make sense? Anyway, I've gone well over time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to stop recording here. But just for those who are tuning in on YouTube, please like, subscribe, please leave a comment. I hope that you have benefited from this talk and that these words will help heal and soothe your body, your mind, your spirit, and your soul. And these words may bring more peace into your life. To check out my events, I have a level 1 bioenergy coming up May 20th, 21st, and a level 2 online international practitioner diploma training coming up on May 24th, which is on Wednesdays from 10 to 1:30 p.m. It's online through Zoom. It's for 18 weeks between May and November. And there's 30% off the price for my 30th year of bioenergy. So this is the year, if you've ever been interested in learning it, this is the year to do it. Am I selling it? Absolutely. It's the best course ever. You should friggin' do it. It's amazing. Thank you for tuning in today. And I hope that you'll tune. Oh, we won't be here for the next 2 weeks because we'll be in Mexico doing our level 3 training. Woohoo! You know, but otherwise, I hope to see you when we get back.